Alien princess rejects thousand suitors until she meets the true king. Beginning, the princess of Arinder. The twin suns of Arinder Prime glimmered across the crystalline domes of the royal palace. The light fractured into 1,000 shimmering colors, painting the entire sky with auroras. Inside the throne room, Princess Lyra Vane Solara, heir to the Solarian Empire, sat on a levitating dais made of blue crystal. She was known across 9 star systems as the unapproachable Rose of Arinder, a title earned not only for her beauty, but for her unmatched intellect and her defiance of interstellar tradition. Lyra was no ordinary princess. She had rejected every one of the 1,000 suitors who had come to court her, warlords, tech lords, princes, and bioengineered heirs of planetary dynasties. Each one had offered her gifts beyond imagination. Moons sculpted into palaces, fleets of star cruisers, and eternal youth serums. Yet she refused them all with grace, her violet eyes calm but unyielding. Her reason was simple. Lyra believed that love was not a trait of power. She wanted someone who saw her, not her lineage, her empire, or her command over the Solarian armadas. Her father, Emperor Kale Solara, had grown weary of her refusals. His empire stretched across 5 galaxies, but his patience did not. Lyra, he said one evening, his voice echoing in the Golden Hall, you are the blood of Solara. The fate of our line depends on your union. Each rejection weakens our alliances. I will not marry for politics, she replied. You married mother for love, not for empire. The Emperor's eyes softened for a moment. Your mother was different. She was not from this galaxy. That statement always lingered in Lyra's mind. Her mother had been human, from Earth, a planet lost to the Solarian archives after the Great Cataclysm. Lyra had inherited her mother's empathy and her father's power, a combination that made her both revered and feared. But the Empire demanded she choose a consort soon. So, her father announced a celestial tournament, a contest where 1,000 suitors would prove their worth through trials of strength, intelligence, and heart. The winner would earn her hand. And yet, deep inside, Lyra already knew none of them would move her heart. Middle, the suitors of the stars. The first trial began on the floating gardens of Seraph, where gravity shimmered like ripples in a pond. Each suitor had to harness gravitational energy to grow a living structure from pure light, a test of creation and control. Princes from Antares, captains from Vega, even synthetics from the machine realms bent light into ornate sculptures. One shaped a dragon, made of plasma. Another made a living harp that sang her name. Lyra admired their skill, but felt nothing. Then came the trial of empathy, a challenge designed by Lyra herself. Each suitor was placed inside an illusion that simulated the life of a commoner, to test if they could understand pain and humility. Most failed. A few cheated, using neural dampeners to dull the simulation's hardships. Lyra observed silently from the throne, disappointment growing with each trial. Her father watched too, more agitated each day. You expect kings to think like peasants, he snapped. I expect kings to feel, Lyra replied. The final trial, the trial of heart, was held aboard the Starspire Arena, a colossal station orbiting Arinder's largest moon. It tested not weapons, but character. The suitors had to protect something fragile, a child, a creature, a seed, through a simulated war zone filled with illusions of chaos. When the last contestant failed, the Emperor's temper broke. You've turned this into a mockery, he thundered before the gathered nobles. 8,000 suitors, Lyra, and not one pleases you. Lyra stood tall, because not one understands me. The court fell silent. The Emperor, humiliated before the Galactic Council, declared, Then I will find you a king myself. That night, Lyra stood on the palace balcony, staring at the twin suns sinking into the horizon. The gardens shimmered below, empty, lifeless, despite their beauty. She wondered if she would ever meet someone who could see beyond the crown, the duty, the walls of protocol. As she turned to leave, her personal AI soul chimed softly. Princess, there's an intruder on the outer rim of the palace grounds. An intruder? Lyra frowned. Show me. A hologram appeared, showing a man in a torn spacesuit dragging a broken vessel from the sands. A human. His face was dirt-streaked, his shipwreck craft smoldering in the background. The stranger from the stars. Lyra descended alone to the crash site, ignoring the guards' protests. The man was kneeling beside a glowing wreck, trying to salvage a data core. His hands were trembling from exhaustion, but he moved with purpose. When she approached, he turned sharply, ready to defend himself, but froze when he saw her radiant aura. You're not from here, she said, scanning his suit's markings. That's human tech, pre-cataclysm. He gave a weak laugh. You know about Earth? Lyra's heart skipped. You're from Earth. He nodded, removing his cracked helmet. Captain Elias Vance, Terran Expedition Corps. My ship was caught in a wormhole anomaly near the Andera cluster. Guess I came out farther than expected. Lyra knelt beside him, intrigued. Humans were thought extinct after the cataclysm wiped out most of their colonies centuries ago. Yet here he was, battered, humble, and alive. She healed his wounds using a crystal interface from her wristband. You shouldn't be here, she said softly. Arinder isn't kind outsiders. I didn't mean to intrude, Elias said, glancing up at the palace lights. But this planet, it's beautiful, feels almost alive. Lyra smiled faintly. That's because it is. The crystals in our soil resonate with the sun's energy. Everything here grows with light. Elias studied her face, unaware he was speaking to the princess herself. You talk like a scientist, not a ruler. Her smile faltered. And you talk like someone who doesn't know who I am. I don't, he admitted. But you seem lonely. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not as royalty, but as a person. A growing connection. Over the next days, Lyra secretly helped Elias repair his ship. He was brilliant with old-world engineering, patching systems that her empire's nanotech couldn't even recognize. She was fascinated by his understanding of simplicity, how he could fix something with nothing but intuition and patience. They spoke for hours beneath the glowing gardens. He told her stories of Earth's oceans and storms, of music that was played on strings instead of holograms. She told him of her mother, who had once sung to her about a blue planet under a single sun. Each day, she felt something new, something she'd never felt with any of her suitors. Elias didn't bow to her. He didn't try to impress her. He just listened. But word spread quickly. The guards reported to the emperor that his daughter was seen with a vagrant human. Outraged, the emperor summoned her. You shame the crown, he roared. You refuse kings of empires, and now you lower yourself to castaway? He's not what you think, Lyra pleaded. He's kind, wise. He's human, her father interrupted. A relic of a dead race. Lyra's eyes hardened. Then perhaps I am too, father. The emperor ordered Elias imprisoned and his ship confiscated. Lyra's heart broke. The true king's trial. Elias was taken to the Vault of Stars, a subterranean prison made of light cages. When Lyra found him there, bruised but calm, he only smiled. I told you I bring bad luck, he said gently. You brought me truth, she whispered, and I will not let them destroy that. Using her mother's encryption codes, ones the emperor didn't know existed, Lyra deactivated the vault security and freed Elias. But as they escaped through the crystal corridors, the emperor's royal guard intercepted them. Stop them, shouted the commander, igniting his plasma staff. Elias grabbed a fallen weapon and fought beside her, not as a soldier, but as someone protecting something sacred. The air pulsed with energy, and Lyra realized something extraordinary. The crystals around them began to glow in resonance with his heartbeat. The crystals responded only to royal blood. Elias, she gasped, you're... Before she could finish, the emperor appeared, descending in a burst of golden light. So this is the man who turns my daughter against her crown, he said coldly. Elias dropped his weapon. I never wanted to harm your empire. You already have, the emperor replied, raising a scepter. You've awakened the crystals. Only one of royal blood can do that. The chamber trembled as the crystals erupted in a symphony of light. Holograms of ancient symbols swirled around them. The gene seal of Solara, a biological code that recognized lineage. The data from the holograms translated into a stunning revelation. Elias carried the same genetic signature as Lyra's late mother. He wasn't just a random human. He was a descendant. The last heir of Earth's royal bloodline, a lost branch intertwined with the Solarian code. The emperor's eyes widened. Impossible, the true king's blood. Elias looked at Lyra, confusion and awe in his eyes. What does that mean? Lyra took his hand. It means the universe just found the one I was meant to meet, ending the rise of two suns. The revelation sent shockwaves through the empire. The nobles raged, the generals protested, but the crystals of Solar themselves, the living core of the planet, had chosen. They recognized Elias's blood as a reflection of the original founders who seeded Erinda millennia ago. Tradition demanded obedience to the crystals. The emperor had no choice but to accept what fate decreed. At the coronation of the twin thrones, Lyra stood beside Elias under the aurora sky. The two suns merged in a rare eclipse, an omen said to appear only when two royal souls united as one. The ceremony was ancient and luminous. The crystals pulsed in rhythm with their joined heartbeats. When Elias placed his hand over hers, a surge of energy spread through the crowd. Flowers of light bloomed from the palace walls. Even the stars above seemed to shimmer brighter. He turned to her and whispered, I'm no king. She smiled. You are now. Not because of blood, but because you carry the heart that this empire has forgotten. Years passed. Together, they reformed Erinda. They ended the tradition of conquest, turning the Solarian fleets into vessels of exploration and aid. Elias brought human compassion to a civilization that had lost its warmth. Lyra brought balance and wisdom. Under their reign, the Erinda Alliance became the first galactic empire ruled not by power, but by empathy. One evening, as they stood on the same balcony where she had once watched the lonely suns, Elias asked, Did you ever think it would end like this? Lyra leaned against him, her crown glinting in the light. I thought it would never begin. He smiled softly. You rejected 1,000 suitors. And I would again, she said, because I was waiting for the one man who didn't come to claim a throne, but to share it. The two watched as the twin suns descended once more, symbols of their two worlds forever joined. And in the heart of Erinda, the crystals whispered in harmony, carrying their names through the stars. Lyra, the unapproachable rose, and Elias, the true king who came from the ashes of Earth. Their legend would echo for 1,000 light years, a story of love that bridged galaxies, defied empires, and united two lost worlds beneath the glow of eternal light.